As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to help people in life, like my man, Takayuki Yagami-san, one of my favorite new protagonists in recent memory. In Judgment, a game I was told by more than one friend to play, I signed up for the Yagami Detective Agency and got to roleplay as a crime fighter, as a mystery solver, and as a friend to those in need, and even got to be a lover on a few special occasions. In this video, I want to help you digest Kamurocho by giving you a guide to this journey for a difficult yet rewarding platinum. And for those that have already aced this platinum, let me share with you my reflections on my 140 hours spent with a very charming game indeed. Let's start off with what I really like about Judgment: the characters and this music. This soundtrack really gets me in the groove, if you know what I'm saying.
Let's go.
I'm sure you do.
Let's go.
Oh yeah, Sari-chan. Let's get it. The characters are all quite charismatic, each with conflicting personalities that in combinations make for compelling comedy and drama. The graphics and the animation also suit them well, with extreme photorealism and great voice acting helping to bring a gripping sense of immersion to an otherwise wacky adventure. Yagami is hip and chill, nothing like the traditional hard-boiled investigators that have been played out across all media. This Sherlock knows how to throw down with the best of them, performing kung fu in skin-tight jeans, kicking Yakuza ass all over Kamurocho, bending the rules and stretching the law thin in pursuit of the truth. Takayuki has a troubled past and extensive ties to both law enforcement and the Yakuza, with his loyal partner Kaito-san being the type that always wanted to be a gangster. They were both mentored by the head of the Matsugane family, sort of the Vito Corleone or the godfather of this Yakuza world. They are but a small piece or a subsidiary of an ever-growing clan of wise guys aspiring to be something more than the neighborhood gangbangers that they are. The characters, both big and small, realistic and comical, feel humanized, and we are interested in their ambitions, delighted in their successes, and pained in their downfalls. Even the antagonistic career criminals like Hamura, the sharp-dressed man that he is, and the punk pretender who means well, Higashi, have arcs that come full circle and feel satisfying. The game's opening is absorbing, as we are cleverly informed of a statistic, perhaps real or embellished for the purpose of the narrative, that 99% of all murder suspects are found guilty, and in the rare case of the 1% who are acquitted, one of the lucky few was represented by Yagami himself, only for a cruel twist of plot later finding the defendant in the clear now being guilty of murdering his beloved. There's a brilliant detail shown in this disturbing and graphic image that someone was framed. Judgment is a smart game, an extension of the Yakuza brand of story-driven fighting games, assembled together with satirical elements and real-life references that paint its open world with a level of detail that rivals the kind of engrossing and exaggerated experiences that GTA is known for. It reminds me through its narrative of one of my favorite games, Mafia 2, and how, at heart, it's a serious character drama with emphasis on loyalty first in a world of cutthroat criminals. There's a hell of a lot of things to do in this world, and more than a fair share of perverted dialogue and slapstick situations that I find incredibly charming and wholesome. One moment, the story is focused on the seedy underbelly of the Japanese Yakuza syndicates, juxtaposing the glamour of organized crime with the horrors of the collateral damage that a life of violence leaves in its wake. The next moment, the protagonist is beholding the farce, featuring inexplicable over-the-top action, punctuated by silly innuendo and jerk-off jokes that more often than not lead to cheesy, if not heartwarming, moments of reconciliation and good-natured laughs. Judgment has some of the cheesiest dialogue ever in a game, but I adore that. Judgment shifts its tone from guilty pleasure to intriguing murder mystery at the drop of a dime, and the protagonist Yagami is such a warm and friendly host, taking us through this absurd world, charming because of his kind-hearted authenticity. Tak is down to earth and one likable, cool motherfucker. He reminds me of some of my favorite Rockstar Games characters that, along with us, the player, bear witness to the kooky happenings that make the most sense coming from games that don't always take themselves seriously, while at the same time giving us an honest reflection of ourselves. Yagami makes me feel good about myself every time he solves a case, bringing the weirdos together and putting a warm smile on his face and mine. The game makes my mood when the silly, happy-go-lucky music comes on to play during a touching scene, or when the more serious-sounding tracks pop up perfectly during episodes of perversion and craziness. If I didn't find the style and tone right up my alley, it would have been tough putting in the hours on this one to get the troublesome platinum. But it is, and so I enjoyed putting in the work to get this one. It took me about 140 hours, which I think is a little too long given the estimates from most trophy guides out there. But I like to read all the dialogue, see all the variations of options play out, and examine up close the landmarkings of the open world, brushing up on my Japanese and getting a sense of what the atmosphere must be like to inhabit a bustling city like Kamurocho. I spent about 51 hours just getting through the 13 main chapters of the story on hard mode, with some side exploration in between. I like how each chapter ends in a cliffhanger and is recapped with that little dramatic sound that tickles your imagination, drawing you deeper into the conspiracy rabbit hole. The main story has good variety and gets me hooked on each new character that gets introduced, until it gradually becomes a bit more convoluted than it initially lets on. There are some mechanics that they try to implement to give the sense of role-playing as a detective, features that eventually overstay their welcome and end up playing out tediously, like the tailing mechanic, which is essentially just there to be obnoxious, like this late game sequence where I follow the guy for minutes on end, just for him to do a loop-de-loop back around to where he was just a moment ago. Searching for clues hidden within the frame makes sense, but most of the trouble with that is just finding the stray cat collectible, with the dead giveaway being the incessant meows in the background. I like these little critters though. And you even get to visit the Neon Cafe, which is a thing in real life as well, and one of the things I love about Japan. They should have had a side mission just for playing with these little guys. Other mechanics that they introduce but then almost discard entirely later on are the photographer missions, the find the target based on appearance thing, which never takes more than 5 seconds, and the one where you have to run around town chasing after someone to the tune of predictable QTEs. There's this main feature where you often have to select from a piece of evidence or choose the right dialogue choices from mapped responses to further the story, but they never feel too difficult to interpret if you have a moderate attention span to what's happening in the game. I did like the courtroom sequence where Emi Terasawa takes a stand and gives the impassioned testimony on her lover's defense. And the game teased something more spectacular than that by the end, but didn't quite deliver. I found the overall story arc to be clever and thought-provoking, but it starts to get batshit at the end, and a little unnecessarily padded in the final act. I had been able to guess the identities of at least a few villains beforehand, but those initial chapters focusing mainly on the implications of Yakuza gangland murders were very intriguing and had me hooked. Like I said, the best moments in Judgment are when we get to see Yagami in action as less of a detective and more of an altruistic errand boy, which I say in the best possible way because I really do feel like Yagami is a charming, wholesome character. For the platinum, you have to make 50 unique friends, mostly shopkeepers and random weirdos that pop up at various places as the story progresses. You have to eat a lot of food to progress these, and most of the food is very delicious looking and is a great touch in bringing this world to life. I like that you get to sit down and see a picture of the food in question, even if the animation is regrettably absent. It's something that the Persona games could do more of, despite sharing many wonderful characteristics with the Ria ga Gotoku games. The formalism, which Japan is widely known for, is always on display and is really cute, like the shameless use of the honorifics san, chan, kun, and, of course, arigato gozaimashita. It's so cool. Along with the food, you have various side quests and side cases that will take the majority of your time in premium adventure mode. The vast majority of these are quirky and funny and feel unique from one another. A few are almost pointless and obnoxious, like the one where you have to fund the random NPC's quick starter campaign to the tune of 20 million yen. I did this by spamming the DICE VR game for cash and prizes. I figured out a strat to get the best possible rolls, land on spaces nearest to the Coral Neon Cat for the bonus rounds, and by spamming a particular 4 times punch and 3 times kick tiger stance combo, I would get the maximum hits on the piggy bank guys and get the money. Doing this, you can pretty much acquire everything that costs money. It's also how I managed to tackle the dreaded Mahjong minigame. One of a series of ridiculous minigames. You have to play for the 100% completion. I like the fact that at least they make you do a little bit of everything for completion, which shows you they took time in making things feel real. I had to learn Mahjong the hard way and eventually worked out an understanding of the in-game RNG. For example, on certain hands drawn, I could detect whether or not a 3-color straight was being set up for me, or if 7 pairs was lining up based on my initial hand RNG. I learned not to spam Pwn, Chi, and Con unless it was strategic, and to pretty much bluff my way through like poker, declaring Ricci only to get the challenges done with, or to beat an NPC to the punch of getting Rollner Sumo first. It's a really complex game that I am proud to say I won 50 times, with the vast majority of wins done legit, but of course with a few by way of the 9 gates tiles, which I wasted tens of millions of yen on to farm SP from hug bombs to buy from the dude in the sewers. This was the major roadblock to getting the platinum, but I managed it and I felt rewarded afterwards. Shogi was actually pretty easy thanks to the in-game cheat book, but otherwise is a lot more complicated than traditional chess. Then you have Koi Koi, which is a strange go fish type game mode that exists, and you even have poker and blackjack, which are fun to play. I love it when he says blackjack in a Japanese accent. Blackjack. There's also tedious, long-standing challenges like the drone races and part assembly that really reminds me of a GTA-style platinum grind because of all the various mini activities they sprinkle in on the side. The arcade games were also a doozy, but I managed to cheese my way through Virtua Fighter 2 and 5 using the butt slap move. The 4 girlfriends were really wholesome and well thought out quest lines that show how you can populate a video game with engaging activities driven by dialogue alone. Here you can get some of the creepiest, pervy dialogue options that I couldn't help but try out. You can accept or reject each girl's affection, but of course it's Japan and I must get the harem. Sana Mihama was my favorite girl, and I really enjoyed her storyline, even if it's a bit weird that she's a 19-year-old dating the 35-year-old Yagami. And the remaster DLC for Judgment, you get to dress up your girlfriends and take Sari on the town in whichever style your heart contents. I love how she blossoms from an uptight and introverted paralegal, and old lady clothes and nerd glasses, into the best hostess in Kamurocho, basically an adult film star, and you get to be the one to design her. I also like how the Boy Scout Hoshino is the one to seal the deal with her. I think that he deserves it. The gameplay in Judgment is a lot of fun and never overstays its welcome, in my opinion. The EX finisher moves are hilariously far out, like the ones where the shop throws you a hot skewer that insta-kills a gang member, or the one where you throw a guy into Yakuza limo and just imagine what happens to him next. Or this one, where you beat up a guy in the middle of the street, pause to save him from being run over, and then proceed to kick the snot out of him. The gameplay speaks for itself. Kim-san's text messages annoy me at times, but from a design standpoint, I am glad Free Roam features an unlimited supply of goons for resources and combat practice. The boss battles feel pivotal, often consisting of multiple phases, unique QTEs, and a large crowd of foes to knock around simultaneously. You can stock up on food recovery items and make use of supernatural cheat codes that can be crafted through resources or acquired from the DLC. They don't feel out of place because it is a Yakuza game and it knows it. In moments of trouble, I did find the game challenging and decided to use these to lessen the burden. But I found that for Legend Mode, especially with all the skills unlocked, the enemies were much less of a hassle. On New Game Hard, the game can be difficult, but they help you out a lot with the superpowers and the aid from friendly AI. The game surprisingly has a laundry list of special techniques and skills that makes Judgment altogether a robust RPG experience. The best thing I can say about Judgment is that it was a fun time, if not always the most serious of games. It makes me want to play more games like it in the series and reminds me how much I've been searching for more games similar to Persona. Both series happen to be published by Sega, who will continue to be a pioneer as long as they have these two wonderfully imaginative franchises. My final judgment on Judgment is that it is a very good game, a strong 8 out of 10. Arigato gozaimashita.
Arigato gozaimashita.